All right. I think we are ready now to get started with this story of the Bible. So there'll be a couple of other stories sprinkled here and there while I'm going through this, but I'm going to start us off with what this one is titled in the Storybook Bible, "The Captain of the Storm." I was going to show you the pictures, but I realized it's going to be hard to hold this and do it at the same time. But we'll give it our best shot. The sun was going down, the air was warm and still. "Let's go across the lake," Jesus said to his friends. Jesus had been helping people all day. Now he was tired. So they left the crowds at the shore and set out in a small fishing boat. Jesus climbed into the boat to take a nap. As soon as his head touched the pillow, he fell fast asleep. It was a beautiful evening. A gentle breeze rustled the sails. The friends were chattering happily as they headed out into the middle of the lake. Everything was perfect, just right for a nice, quiet sail. They were only about halfway across when out of nowhere, whirling winds swept across the lake, fierce and strong like a hurricane. A blinding flash of lightning lit up the sky, thunder roaring right overhead. The storm blew the water into towering waves and hurled the little boat up, up, up.
Hey, Rob, hold on.
Oh,
We were talking the other day. I think I have something that happened similar to me just recently.
Well, yeah, why don't you come up and tell us about it? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so recently it's a relative term. Anyways, my family a couple years ago decided that we were going to do this really cool thing. And I don't know why, because we're not very coordinated. And we're going to go whitewater rafting. If you don't know what whitewater rafting is, you get in these big old rafts that are made of like plastic and rubber, and you paddle down a river. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. With my family, it caused a lot of arguments, but that's not for today's story. And so we had spent a nice, calm day paddling down the river, going through some rapids where things get a little fast, a little bumpy. Supposedly that's the fun parts. I don't know. But we got to about midway, and we stopped. And we had lunch. And by this point, we had a raft guide with us, and he started telling us all these things that we were doing right, all these things that we were doing wrong, and basically just kind of to encourage us, was guiding us and helping us get down the river. And it was shortly after lunch that he told us the parts that they didn't tell us before we took off, was at the end of the river, there's this waterfall. Now, when I said this happened a few years ago, it was closer to like 8, and so I was a lot younger. And so when I hear the term waterfall as like a 14-year-old kid, I'm thinking massive. And it was. It was terrifying. So as we get closer and closer to this waterfall, we're getting scared. We keep looking at our guy and we're like, yo, dog, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how I feel about going down a waterfall. We're honestly a little scared. And he kept just promising us that people do it all the time, that he guides people all the time down this waterfall, and all of these different things. And so as we get closer and closer, we start to hear it. I don't know, some of y'all went to a retreat this weekend. Some of y'all saw the waterfalls there, how loud they can be. So pretty scared, pretty terrified. And as we come up to the waterfall, he tells us, we don't have to do this. He tells us that there is actually a path that you can pull off, you pick up your boat, and you walk down the hill. Well, as I told you, my family likes to argue a lot. And that argument ended with, nah, we going over this waterfall. So we start approaching the waterfall, our boat's going straight. As we get closer, we start going a little more left, and a little bit more left. And by the time we hit the edge of the waterfall, we were sideways. I don't know if you know this, that's not the optimal way to go down a waterfall. And we got stuck. And so you'll hear a story later on tonight about teetering on the edge, but that's not where I'm going. We're stuck sitting there, and our boat is slowly sinking right on the edge of this, in my mind, massive waterfall. Looking back on it, I think it was like 3 foot high, but again, massive waterfall. And this entire time, our raft guide, our river guide, was telling us that like it's okay, this happens. Like it's he's done this 1,000 times, to not worry about it, and that we were going to get out. And eventually, we did. Another boat came by, and we piled on with them, and we were at the end, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And it was honestly a really great time. I was terrified. And it just reminded me of that story. how like their boat was just going crashing, and that's what we thought was going to happen to us as well.
Well, thank you, Brendan. I appreciate that story. Thank you very much. Okay, so where was I? All right, yes. The little boat went up, 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 then sent it hurtling, crashing back down, down, down. The fishing boat was blown and buffeted and tossed and turned back and forth and up and down and left and right and round and round. And in the middle of the storm, Jesus was sleeping. Now, Jesus' friends had been fishermen all their lives, but in all their years fishing on this lake, they had never once seen a storm like this one. No matter how hard they struggled with their ropes and sails, they couldn't control their boat. This storm was just too big for them. But the storm wasn't too big for Jesus. Help, they screamed. Wake up, quick, Jesus.
Oh, hey, I got a story about this.
Oh, well, yeah, come up and share it, man.
Yeah. See, I can imagine what it was like for the disciples being so scared, because it's like you do something a million times, but then there's just one time where it's like, ooh, this is like bad. Because you see, I lived a crazy life. Had a lot of close calls in my life, but this story is about the first time where I realized I was mortal. So a couple of years ago, there was a group of us that decided to take a trip up to North Carolina to this place called Max Patch. And it's this beautiful mountain. It's really high, you hike up, and there are no trees on the top of it, so you can see out forever. And we went up there and we had a campfire and we did some worship, and it was really, really cool. And so on the way back, we got into our cars and we were driving down the road. And to get there, you drive for about 5 or 10 miles on a dirt road, just around the mountain. This is a little tiny dirt road. And so we were making our way down, and there was this truck in front of us. And it was going kind of slow, and we were too. And all of a sudden, it pulls over and motions for us to go ahead. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, whatever. So we drove past the truck. And then a little while later, a car is coming the other way of the road. And so it's not big enough. The road's not big enough for 2 people. So we inched over a little bit to try to let them over. We were on the cliff side of the road. And as we're driving, the ground gives out underneath us. And the car does this on the side of the mountain. And I'll tell you, like, that was the first moment in my life that I truly thought that I was about to die. And the weirdest thing is that there were a million thoughts that went through my head, because like the car slid like this and then it stopped. And we probably waited about 10, 15 seconds to see what it was going to do. But those couple of seconds felt like a lifetime. And all these thoughts came through my head. I looked over to the cliffside, and it's pitch black. Could not see anything. There's no telling how far we would have fallen. And I thought, this is it. And I thought, what are my parents going to think when they get the news? And I thought, am I ready for this? And I even managed to make a joke to myself, because I was like, well, I guess it's a good thing we came from a worship night, so I'm straight with God. And so just all these thoughts came through my head, and I was terrified, but I also had this sense of peace about me where I was like, okay, like this is gonna work for a minute or two, and then it's not gonna be my problem anymore. And in all of that, the only thing that I could manage to say, which was very strange for me at the time, is all I could say, I was held on and I just kept saying, Jesus, Jesus, just calling out. And so we sat still for a couple minutes. Well, not minutes, probably seconds. It felt like minutes. And we waited, and the car didn't do anything. And so we climbed out. We had to climb up and then out of the car. And so we all got out. Everyone was safe. And I looked behind, and the car was hanging on by one tire on the side of the mountain. The rest were just over the cliffside. So it was literally just like by the skin of our teeth we made it out. And so we thought, okay, well, what do we do now? Because the car's stuck. And right as we think that, the truck that let us pass by pulled up. These two big old burly mountain men came out, with big old beards, and they looked and said, "Y'all need help?" Yeah. So luckily they had a tow winch on their car so they could hook it up to ours and pull it out. And I'll never forget, they said, "We're gonna try to pull you out, but if you start dragging us, we're gonna cut the line." We're like, "Okay, sounds good." So thankfully, they hooked it up to our car and they pulled it out. Everything was fine. And they said, we thanked them obviously, and they said, "Yeah, we just had this sense that we needed to be out tonight driving because we had a feeling that somebody was going to be in trouble and needed our help, and so we wanted to be out here." And I'll never forget the last thing that they said to us as we went on our way. They said, "Forward of the Lord will get you there." And that's why I drive a Ford Focus.
Thank you so much for that story. Very nice. All right. All right, where was it? Okay, yes. "Help," they screamed. "Wake up, quick, Jesus." Jesus opened his eyes, and Jesus opened his eyes. "Rescue us, save us," they shrieked. "Don't you care?" And of course Jesus cared. This was the very reason he had come, to rescue them and to save them. Jesus stood up and spoke to the storm. "Hush," he said, and that's all. And the strangest thing happened. The wind and the waves recognized Jesus' voice. They had heard it before, of course. It was the same voice that made them in the very beginning. They listened to Jesus and they did what he said. Immediately the wind stopped, the water calmed down, it glittered innocently in the moonlight, and lapped quietly against the side of the boat, as if nothing had ever happened. The little boat bobbed gently up and down. There was a deep stillness and a great quiet all around. Then Jesus turned to his wind-torn friends. "Why were you scared?" he asked. "Did you forget who I am? Did you believe your fears instead of me?"
Oh, I have a story like that.
Oh, yeah. Go for it, Matthew.
That's my friend.
So before I begin, I'm going to take a little page out of Donnie's book. Also, I like hilarious. But Donnie likes to ask questions, and those disciples were scared of the storm. But what are y'all afraid of?
Spiders.
The dark.
Being alone. Drowning in a car.
I mean, yeah. After Brandon's story, I would say. Well, in high school, my biggest fear was loneliness. And I didn't want to be alone, so I did what any sensible high schooler would do. I rushed into a relationship, of course. I remember the day when I pulled into my driveway, and I just reflected on what my life was at the time. I was so happy. I just looked up, and I thank God for giving me the person to be with, even though I knew deep down that wasn't his plan. And I can tell you, I'm a whole lot worse of a planner than God is. So that relationship got taken away pretty quickly, and I struggled for a while. Why would God do this? Why would God take away something that meant so much? Something that I had prayed for, something that I had cared about. I was still going through the rough times and dealing with these questions when I went on my annual trip. I remember going on this big trip, sitting in the back of the room during that talk, but moving out onto the beach. I remember sitting in the sand, looking into the night sky, like the stars there, and looking over the waves like the disciples did. And I just remember asking God why he took everything away. Why was everything going wrong? And then I got this overwhelming feeling and realization that my plan was going wrong, that my plan wasn't working, not his. God made me realize that I needed to let go of control. trust him and focus on what he wants me to do with my life, not what I want. I actually have a note on my phone from that night. It read, God, I know I begged you for years and years, and I feel like all you said was all I need is you. I just denied. I just wanted for you to do my plan, no matter how well yours is. You gave me it, and it was all I ever wanted, and I felt amazing. I was praising you so much. But then you took it away, looked me in my eyes, and said, that's not my plan for you. Are you ready to live my plan? And today, I'm finally ready to say yes. Now, this didn't fix everything. I still had struggles, but this put me on a path, gave me a purpose, and a way to live my life. During that retreat, I also found my favorite verse, Matthew 6:34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. For tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And if you know me, you've definitely heard that verse from me before. But ever since then, I've learned to try and live life by trusting in God, not worrying about what tomorrow brings, because like it says, tomorrow will worry about itself. I've had my ups and downs since then, but I've never been too stressed or too worried by it, because God has a plan, and his plan is good. I never have to be afraid to be alone, because God is always with me, and he has put good people like God in my life to be there with me.
Thank you so much for sharing. All right, let's finish this last story up. Did you believe your fears instead of me? Jesus asked. Jesus' friends were quiet as the wind and the waves, and into their hearts came a different kind of storm. What kind of man is this? They asked themselves anxiously. Even the winds and the waves obey him, they said, because they didn't understand. They didn't realize yet that Jesus was the Son of God. Jesus' friends had been so afraid they had only seen the big waves. They had forgotten that if Jesus was with them, then they had nothing to be afraid of, no matter how small their boat or how big the storm. And that is the end of the story. So that's the end of the story about Jesus, but that story still echoes so loudly today in so many different people's lives. And I think that's what we could see really well in the three other stories that we heard. And I think looking just at this story, we can see some pretty clear points. That we can always call to Jesus for anything. That he's always there in the middle of any storm that we experience. And that we don't have to be afraid, because he's always going to be there to take care of us. But I think there's three more additional points that these stories really highlight and make a clear connection with the story from the Bible. So looking at Brandon's first, God sends help ahead of our trouble. God is in control of everything, and there's no accident that these two men were already in their way on their truck before they had even made it down the mountain. God doesn't just see our storms as they get there and react. He sees them an infinity's distance off. He knows that they're coming well before any kind of inkling enters our mind that something could be going wrong. And he's planned for each and every step that we're going to take in our futures. Just for example, God sent Jesus ahead of all of us before we were even born, and that has gotten us through one of the worst storms before we ever even realized it was here. And if he's willing to do that, he's going to do everything that he can for us. And I think there's two really good scriptures that tie that in. The first being in Romans 8:3. He who did not spare his own son, but delivered him over for us all, how will we not also with him freely give us all things? And in 1 Peter 5, verses 6-7. Therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, so that he may exalt you at the proper time, having cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea about what I'm saying. This does not mean that awful things can't happen to us in life. No matter how well we take care of ourselves, we are all in a human body. And no matter Jesus or not in our boat, that is one day going to fail. But spiritually, with Jesus in our boat, we are unsinkable. And I think that's reflected really well in these next two verses. In 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. No temptation is overtaking you except something common to mankind. And God is faithful. So he will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But with the temptation, will provide the way of escape also, so that you'll be able to endure it. And regarding our flesh, in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 7 through 9, we now have this light shining in our hearts. We ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure, which is Jesus. And this makes it clear that our great power is from God, not from ourselves. We are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. And I think that's a really powerful hope to hold on to whenever we're ever going through anything. And then now looking at Matthew's story, the big theme of his, or one of the big themes was that all we need is Jesus. God may end up answering our prayers like he did for Matthew, like he did for the disciples. He gave Matthew that relationship. He stopped the storm that the disciples were in an instant, but wanted to show them that there was something so much better, and that was having that complete trust and reliance on him, no matter what you were going through. To know that if he's there with all of us, that we don't have to panic, that we don't have to worry, that the storm has no power over us because he's in our boat too. Even in the worst parts of the storm, and that's all we need to face anything, with that complete faith and trust in him. And a scripture that goes really well with that, along next to the one that Matthew already said, is Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and pleading, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And that can feel like an extremely hard kind of peace to grasp and hold on to, but it's there for all of us if we really want to take it. And then, last but not least, Brenton's story. I think a major theme from this one that really ties into the story of the Bible is Jesus does know what he's doing. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't look like that. It doesn't seem like that. At so many different points whenever we're in the middle of those really choppy waters. But he's right there in our raft, guiding us, helping us through it with just all the calmness and confidence that God has, which is all of it. And there's another point to this story that I wanted to point out too. And that's that God doesn't abandon us when the storms are our fault. Brenton mentioned that the guide told them that they could go around it. Really easy way, more than welcome to. And obviously, his story was a fun, tripping adventure with his family. So, not the same thing, but in terms of relating to the story of Jesus and the storms that we go through in life, it means so much because all of us can think back on actions that we've taken or things that we've said or done. And there have definitely been really hard storms we've all gone through that we know we at least had something to do with. But Jesus does not leave us in those moments. He is faithful to guide us through those storms, no matter what the situation was leading up to them. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in that guilt and that shame of knowing that it was your fault, of wondering if you're going to drown and just accepting it, just saying that's how it is, that's how it's going to be, it's my fault. But God has something so much different to say to that. And that's in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. And the Lord is the one ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not desert you or abandon you. Do not fear, and do not be dismayed. And that's reflected in so many places throughout the Bible, where we as humans are so prone to mess up and fall away, drown in our own storms, but God's right there to pull us back up. From David to Abraham to Paul, who all messed up in some big ways, really big ways, and they're the most prominent people in the Bible. None of us can go through life perfectly, but God can guide us through those really big storms in a really powerful way. So to end it on, I wanted us to take a moment to really consider the trustworthiness of God and to think about the storms each of us are facing right now. And I'd like y'all to reflect on these two questions, and they'll be up on the screen for y'all to look at. And that is, what storms are you in right now? And what are the reasons you know that you can give them to God? Well, we've talked about a lot of different reasons that you can give them to God, but I want you to reflect on his faithfulness in your own lives, looking back at some of those really hard times that he's been able to get you through. And I know that's sometimes really hard to see whenever you're right in the middle of something, but if you take the time to intentionally do that, it's there. And God, like I said earlier, already carried us through our worst storm of the sun and the sacrifice that he made before we even made the decision to follow him. So it doesn't matter if you've been a Christian for a while, if you're new to this, if you haven't made that decision yet, God has been there, either in your boat or asking to get in, because he wants to. He wants to be there guiding you through all of your storms. So I'm going to take about a minute to give y'all some quiet time to reflect on these questions. Whether it's prayer, whether it's journaling, whatever this needs to look like for you. I'll close this with a quick prayer after that, but feel free to go ahead and do that now for this next minute or so. All right, let's all pray together. Hey God, thank you so much for this time that we were able to just look at this story in your word, but then also reflect and look at how much we can see that story reflected in all of our lives. To really look back on those moments where you've gotten us through some really hard times, some really hard situations and questions and doubts. And I really, truly pray that you would help us to grow in our faith and our understanding and knowledge that you are in our boat. Dear God, that you are right there, just ever present with us. That we don't have to be afraid. That we can have that peace that surpasses all understanding. Help us to give you our anxieties, our storms, dear God, and let you have that full control as the ultimate Savior and guide of our boat, of our life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hello, friends. So we are going to enter into our next time of worship. And just to introduce the first song I'm going to do is called Another in the Fire. And this song really talks about kind of what the story is reflected on, and that Jesus is there with us when we go through these storms and when we go through these things. And some of the lines are like, he was there holding back the seas. He was there in the fire. He was there on the cross, with the power. And so we're going to sing this song. I invite y'all to come down here and reflect and worship however you need to. Know that there's prayer in the back if you want someone to pray with you, if you want to sit in prayer, and you can do that as well. But I invite y'all to worship with us.
There's a grace when the heart is on fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this wrecking me, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears my burden, where another died for me. There was another in the fire. All my dead left me dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains to me and this reckoning, either way I won't bow before the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding, well, power sets me free. There is a grave that holds nobody. Power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, 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 I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar of the heavens as the space between wears thin. I can see the ground shaking beneath us as the prison walls cave in. There's nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was enslaved to be free all. So many things between all the things unseen and it's reckoning. I know I will never be alone. I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever be reminded, how good you are to me? I count the joy in every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding, how good you've been to me? I count the joy in every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I count the joy in every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I count the joy in every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. All right, y'all know what I'm going to say. You sing this one real loud.
Yeah. You did.
Okay, here you go. Well, I searched the world couldn't fill me. Man's empty grace, treasures that fade, never enough. And then you came along, put me back together. Every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Say it like you mean it. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. God of the mountains, God of the valley, there's not a place where mercy and grace won't find me again. 'Cause there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Sing it to him again. 'Cause there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Shout out. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn crows into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only who can. You're Great. All right. Brent, I need you to do some charades.
So, our announcements today. I'm going to do charades.
Yay!
Sit down so everyone can see.
So I'm gonna host Brenton doing these charades. Y'all know the rules of charades, right? He's gonna hold up how many words he's doing, what's the first word he gets, call out, and yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Are y'all ready?
Yes!
Okay, few words. Okay. First word.
Super Bowl.
Chili.
Okay, Super Bowl chili.
Chili.
Yes. Is this upcoming Sunday, February 12th. You can make chili. Sam Cargill will have the sign-ups, and we're gonna vote who's the best. And I heard there's a $25 gift card to Bubba Girls on the line, so I think I should cook off. All right, next one. First word or one word.
Rolling.
Whoa.
Paddling.
Boat.
Oh. Rafting.
Whoa, you boat.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Row your boat. Okay. Oh, you're right. Galentine's. Everything works when she's got it. Wednesday, the 16th, 26th. We're having Galentine's at Brooklyn's house. You can ask for the address. We'll have lattes and cookies and games. We also hang out, all the women. So yeah, that's next week on the 15th. Yeah. All right. Next.
2 words. Confusion. Oh.
That one was more easy. Okay, February 18th, we are having our semi-formal. It will be at Campus View, which is like 5 minutes down the road. We'll have more details later. But dress up, it's gonna be super fun. And yeah, it's a night to get dressed up with your friends and have fun. Yeah. At 8 p.m. Cool. All right, this is our last one. Y'all got this. Multiple words.
5. Baby.
Sad.
Oh.
Island. Okay, baby.
Lovely.
It is islands.
Oh.
Brandon is doing a seminar on loneliness, its causes, and how we can fix that and solutions. And that's going to be on the 24th. It's a Friday at 5 p.m. right here at the house. If you want more information, reach out to Brandon.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more events coming up. You can look at our student Google Calendar to get more information on our events. We also have recorder sheets out in the foyer if you want a little paper copy. And you can take one of those. If you are new or newer and have not been to our welcome corner yet, we invite you there. We have a snack and some cookies. Cookies that is a snack and a mug for you to welcome and say hello. We're glad that you're here. And so our program is coming to a close, but our night is not. After this, we will be having a s'more casserole. Okay. And
What?
Yes. And we're gonna do campfire songs, so get ready, get all your energy up. We're gonna put a countdown on for 10 minutes. Y'all have time to socialize, get the bathroom, all the things. And then we're gonna have some snacks to enjoy the rest of the night. So I'm gonna do a quick word of prayer. So do what you're doing in prayer. Pray God, thanks for a great night. Amen.
So, are you gonna